So many women with ADHD unconsciously repel the abundance and the support and the prosperity and joy and excitement that this world has to offer unconsciously due to their childhood. And I hate to say it, but it's really true. You're living your life through the same energetic, which is emotional pattern of your childhood. So let's say you had a childhood that you were like, yeah, as soon as I'm 18, I'm out of here and never looking back. You'll look through your life and you'll say, wait, why did I always feel like I was escaping something? Why do I always feel like, you know, I needed to get away from something or disassociate or feel like overwhelmed? Because you're still going through the same energetic patterns that you have been through throughout your life. Because your nervous system deemed that as familiar, and familiarity is safe. It doesn't mean it has to be that way. That's typically why you hear the term like rewiring your nervous system. But in all actuality, what we're going to do is we're going to redefine what we deem safe and unsafe to our nervous system. So therefore, you can have a life that you didn't have while you were a child and get the abundance and the prosperity and the love and the support that you desire and you deserve without the chaos and toxicity that it might be wired with right now and your neural pathways in your brain. So first and foremost, I want you to realize that it is safe to receive. Women are very, very prone to like hyper independence when they come from I would say a very toxic childhood. If you were like the emotional caregiver of your family, I wouldn't even say caregiver, I would say caretaker, emotional manager actually is probably the best way to put it. If you had siblings and or caregivers who were emotionally dependent on you as a child, this is done unconsciously in your mind of like the help can't get help. That's the underlying belief. And everything that you experience in this reality comes from some belief that you picked up through either, how you were treated as a child, what you heard, projected into your environment. But all of your life experience is always, always, always tied to some belief. So the journey is always to like go and say, why do I believe this? Where did I pick this up from? And that's why a lot of times it's really beneficial to have a coach who will like work with you one-on-one to challenge you, because it's hard for us to see our own beliefs. I think I'm like okay with kind of looking at my life and being like, why is this? But no, I still have like a therapist and I had a coach for many years to constantly say, wait, where did that come from, and address it. So like one thing I want you to realize, and when we're talking like safe to receive, right, we're talking of more than just money, because money is just like one form of support. It's just one resource. It's one form of energy, but there's plenty of different forms of energy. I would say 8 out of the 10 times you are going to already have like these like preconceived notions when it comes to money being the type of support. So I want you to think about your childhood. Pause the video and get a notebook or get your journal and think about your childhood and just say, answer these questions. 1, when were you taught that it wasn't safe to get help or ask for help? And this is key, because this is typically done unconsciously from our caregivers. They're like, have you tried to figure it out yourself? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? And what they don't realize is they're unconsciously telling you to exhaust all your personal resources before you come get help. And us being humans, we have an expansive amount of energy to try to expel before we burn out due to overwhelm. And at that point, we probably are still like shame and guilt cycles will keep you from actually asking for the help at that point. So a lot of this is reparenting yourself. And that's why I have a guide called Reparenting Yourself, because that's what you need to do. This is just actually reparenting your beliefs around receiving support and safety and support. But you will likely have to do this in every area of your life. How relationships, were taught to you, your own self-esteem, how you parent your children, just the list goes on. The list goes on, but it's true. You are gonna have to do the work. But ask yourself, when were you taught that it wasn't safe to ask for help? And also, you need to answer this question and answer it honestly without adding to it, because sometimes your logic want to kick in there and like add to it. Just right off the cuff, when you think about this question, what's the first thing that comes to mind, and jot it down. And that is, who would you be proving wrong by receiving massive support from God, from source, energy, universe, whatever you call your supreme being? Who would you be proving wrong? Because a lot of times I would say in our brains, we will say, if we admit this, then our dad was wrong, or our mom was wrong, or our aunt was wrong. And I seen on, I think it was on YouTube, a woman, I think it's C Swan, I think that's her username. She has a video where she talks about basically like loyalty, unconscious loyalties to your caregivers, and how that is a block for money. And I'm not going to say go and like binge watch everything, because I can't tell you I agree with everything. But I will say that I thought that was very intriguing. It was a good way to put it, because unconsciously we can say, oh yeah, we're the black sheep, and we haven't talked to our family like that or seen them in this amount of time. But that inner child that's within you probably still has that loyalty there. And you being massively supported, which then would probably lead to you being massively successful, who would you be proving wrong? Who would probably feel some type of way about it? That's what you need to think about it. Is it your mom? Is it your dad? Is it your grandparents? Is it your whole daggone family? Would you be the first person who graduated from college? Would you be the first person who got your master's degree? Would you be the first person who got your doctorate degree? Would you be the first person who had a successful business in your family? Would you be the first person who, had 4 kids or 2 kids, or had a marriage that was over 30 years and happy, or just a marriage that was over 5 years and you actually like each other? You can do this for everything. I promise you, if you look at everything in your life and just say, hold on, who would be offended? Who would I be making a liar by living out this reality, living out this truth? That is what you should probably question and really like cut those cords with those type of people on that type of energetic level. Meaning, not saying you don't ever talk to them again, but meaning cut the cords of like, I no longer live to validate your beliefs. Your beliefs are validated through your experience, and that's the truth. Everybody's beliefs, unconscious beliefs or conscious beliefs, are validated through their experience. Which is why you have to identify the belief that contradicts the reality that you desire. And when you deal with the belief and you address the belief, then you'll actually be able to identify the thoughts when they come that support that belief to say, y'all gotta go too. Cancel, cancel, cancel. And you'll notice that your actions are going to be different. And it's actually the actions that you take or do not take because of, this, elimination will actually change the reality experience that you have. But I want you to really think about that. Also, realizing that safety and receiving tends to be tied to resting. And like if you're a Bible reader, so many times it says, "Be still and know I am God," right? Regardless, even if you're not a Bible reader, you'll know that your parasympathetic nervous system is a system of rest and digestion. So anytime you are just going, you have your sympathetic nervous system way more active than it needs to be. And your parasympathetic nervous system is not as active as it should be. And when you're experiencing that, what tends to happen is dis-ease because the body is not at ease. So really looking and saying, hold on, when was the first time I was criticized or disciplined for quote unquote resting? Because what that did was that associated resting with being lazy in your brain. But one thing you will see is that people who work really, really hard and they don't get enough rest, they can work 2 or 3 jobs, they'll never have enough money. They'll be living paycheck to paycheck all the time. Because another thing, the Bible talks about that, man wasn't made for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath was made for man, the day of rest. And you can take it too literal and crazy and be like, okay, well, only this day and only this. No. Everybody's need for rest is going to be different based off of your life. Who knows, if you're a person where you need 12 hours of sleep, you might be like, look, I'm not working more than 15 hours, 20 hours a week. That would require you to eliminate a lot of the beliefs that you probably picked up in your childhood on that, you have to work at least 40 hours a week and that you have to make this amount of money hourly, that you can only receive this amount of money in a certain amount of time. There is a lot of unconscious beliefs, and Carl Jung talks about the importance of making the unconscious conscious, so that you can create your own reality or co-create, I would say, your reality. That is key. So all of this is pretty much us saying, hold on, wait a second. What were we taught? What do we accept? But also understanding that you can let it go. You can always change your mind. And that's the beauty of actually what the word repent means. Repent literally just means to change your mind. You can always change your mind. You can always be like, you know what? This no longer serves me. I don't want to live out all the generational curses of my family. Nah, I want to have a good life. And you can always decide to do what you need to do to have that quote unquote good life. So I'm going to say, here's some journal prompts that I want you to work on. It's going to be 1, how does your body react when something feels too easy or too good? So a lot of times they say, oh, that's too good to be true. That's a belief that is not supporting you. Nothing is too good to be true. You deserve amazing things. You deserve a life of abundance and prosperity and joy and happiness and all the other things. Because there is a beauty and being uncomfortable, some discomfort, is necessary so that you change, so that you grow, so that you do that transformation. So it's not like you're saying, oh, I don't want any pain. No, of course not, right? But you're just saying, look, I want more, like, sunny days and rainy days, obviously. You know, we all deserve that. So, asking yourself, how would I respond? How would my body respond? Would my body be like, what's this catch 22? What's going on here? Let me read all the fine print. What did they? Because if that's the case, that tells you right there that you have a belief that, like, you don't get to have it easy. That means that a lot of times material gain, quote unquote, whatever form of support comes, it might come, instead of it being a gift, a grant, it'll come as a loan with a crazy interest rate that you got to pay back. Because to a certain extent, you might believe in receiving support to a certain level, but then it has to have a cost to it. So that's why before people do, like, affirmations and things like that for money, I would say no, like, fix your mindset and the beliefs that you have around support, because you'll manifest the money, but you'll manifest it in crazy high interest loans, credit card debt, and things of that nature. When if you do the mindset work around just being open to receiving, and that it's safe to receive gifts, it's safe to receive with ease and grace, it can come as a check from an insurance claim that money don't have to be paid back, or anything else that the universe deems as, like, less resistance and quickly to get, to you. That's important. So your other journal prompt would be, how would safety and slowing down look for me? So that would be like, if you did, like, if you're working 40 hours a week right now, if you cut back to 20 hours a week, how would that look? Would you go and find other things to keep you busy instead of going out in nature and getting your natural dopamine, going to the gym more, meditating more, maybe doing some art, maybe doing some poetry, maybe doing some painting, maybe volunteering at the animal shelter? Would you find things like hobbies and things that you love to do to fill that time? Or would you find other things to keep you busy and stressed out and overwhelmed to fill that time? Because that's important. Because you can unconsciously just keep attracting things and people who fill your time with nonsense. And it can look legit. Like, it could actually look like a legit request for help. They don't know why they, asked you for the help, why you popped up in their mind, but there was energetic entanglement there. And that energetic entanglement was you having that energy pocket, in your energy field to be worked to death, and them having in their energy, pocket. And if that's the first time you're hearing that, I have, like, another video on energetic entanglement. Go catch that. But that's how that works. And then it's like, damn. And they're like, I don't know why you popped up in my mind. And you're like, oh, that's the last thing I needed. Right? Because do you really think that it's safe to receive an abundance with ease and grace? Or do you believe that you have to struggle for it? That it has to be hard? If you believe in the Bible promises wealth without painful toil for it. So that's why so much of it is actually, like, changing your mindset on, what do you even believe? What do you believe about money? What do you believe about your lifestyle? What you get to have? How expansive does your lifestyle get to be? Are there limits to it? These are all the things I just want you to think about during this module. If you literally could have anything, your life could be any way that you want it to be, how would it look? What would you have? How would a normal day be for you? Would you have maids? Would you have nannies? Would you have a personal chef? Would you have, like little pre-planned meal, you know, set up, the meal planning and stuff done for you? Would you like go and just outsource your laundry? What would you do? You have to have a vision. You have to be able to keep that vision before you. And when we have ADHD, that's not the easiest thing. Consistency and self-discipline is not good. Like, it is just, it's not the easiest thing for us. It's amazing for us, but it's not like our go-to. We're like, You have to take the consistency that you typically put toward helping other people and start helping yourself. You have to actually start getting a little more selfish. And I know that's hard because a lot of times women with ADHD, they are selfless people. They are, constantly self-sacrificing and moderating and like going and doing everything for everyone else, and they don't take time for themselves. But there's very little people who are going to notice that you're burnt out, that you're overwhelmed, until you change your unconscious beliefs about receiving support. Because it shouldn't be burnout and overwhelm is what's required for someone to be like, oh, you know what? You don't look well, friend. Maybe you need to go away for the weekend. Can I watch your kids? That shouldn't be what has to happen in order for you to be supported. And so many times we have, if there's ever a time we do get this support, it is literally when we are burnt out, overwhelmed, probably like, 2 days away from checking ourselves into some type of psych ward. That is not the standard. It doesn't have to be the standard. It never was the standard. That was what you saw. And this is like the whole generational curse thing. Just because other people, no matter your caregivers, whoever they were, your grandparents, your mom, whoever, just because they decided that was the life for them, does not mean that has to be the life for you. No, absolutely not. We're going to also talk about hyper independence and how that plays a role in what you receive, but I want to make sure I close out this module, this part, with just getting your mind to just question itself, to do some serious introspection on what does safety and receiving look like for you, what beliefs do you even have around receiving, so that we can start kind of like tearing it apart to build it back up. So if you are a meditator, you can stay for this. If not, you can go ahead and end this. But if you could just breathe, and you can like breathe from your diaphragm, and just hold, and you can just breathe in 4 seconds and like breathe out 6, and just make sure you inhale, but you exhale longer, however many times. You can just move your body. And another thing I would say is, like, anytime you're talking about receiving support, see how your body feels. Because sometimes your back might be tight, that is telling you that you need to send some like nerve cells in your back love and support. And I literally say, like, I dissolve the financial trauma in the cells in my back. It used to be like my shoulders, because it was like, carrying like the weight on, like, world on your shoulders. It used to be my shoulders. I think I've started like to just kind of disperse them. Sometimes it's my back still, but there's like spiritual meanings for like all the different like elements that you have. So that's a good rabbit hole to go down. But honestly, just allow your body to just breathe. And like, I like to like kind of like just activate that vagus nerve in different ways, and like inhaling and just holding, and like, and you can always like just like massage. You could just do so many different things. There's so many different videos that are helpful. I think her channel is called Therapy in a Nutshell. She's fantastic. She's a therapist who does a lot of like free videos if you don't have access to a therapist. If you do have access to a therapist, I highly, highly recommend that you utilize that, I would say, advantage, because therapy can just really, really be helpful. And if you're in the Georgia area in the United States and you are looking for a therapist and you haven't had good luck, I will definitely give you like my therapist. She's amazing. So until then, guys, just breathe, observe, but also give yourself some grace and love because you deserve it. I love you guys.